Good morning, everyone. It's time to start, so could you please take your seats?
So concentrated. Anna Maria. Okay. The ones in circle are going to report back.
Okay.
I didn't get that. Chantel and Yana, I didn't get to ask. Maria.
To you. We all look the same, see? Both of us.
We are on the last day, and we had a very busy schedule yesterday. But I hope you all managed to get some rest. So before we resume the work in the various groups that we have not yet completed the consideration of agenda items that have been assigned to them, we will have a quick report back from the contact groups. And I would like to give the floor to one of the co-chairs from the contact group on MDIs. Henry from Switzerland.
I'm happy to deliver this report, also on behalf of my colleague Idris from Nigeria, who was co-facilitating with me. The contact group on medical dose inhalers met yesterday in the morning, starting the conversation of the contact group on climate-friendly alternatives of medical dose inhalers. It made good use of the time allotted. The proponent of the CRP offered additional clarification on the rationale and scope of the proposed CRP. Parties raised several questions on technical issues and the availability of alternatives, and TEEP responded very well to these questions. However, questions remained on the scope of the decision, and time was not sufficient to work with text, so we would kindly ask the co-chairs of the OEWG and the Secretariat to provide more time and a room for this group to meet again. Thank you.
Thank you. We will provide you more time, and the time and venue we will project it later on the screen. And now I would like to give the floor to contact groups on halons, one of the co-chairs. If you could take the floor. Andrew from USA.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. On behalf of Ali, I'd like to thank the parties who met for the second time on the contact group on halons, considering CRP 5. We had an excellent discussion in the room, and we did, at least in concept, see a lot of convergence on the paragraphs regarding the importance of managing halon and avoiding the destruction of halon where possible. There's still some work in the room that needs to be done on paragraphs 5 and 6 regarding information on Halon 1301 and a potential report from the TEEP. We also have not yet done a first read of the preambular paragraphs, so if we could have more time again today, we would appreciate it, Madam Co-Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. You have had 2 meetings already, and we have some contact groups who have met just once. So we would like to close this agenda item for this meeting and forward the CRP to the MOP, which will be held in Bangkok. And with that, now I would like to give the floor, if that is fine with the parties. And now I would like to give the floor to the contact group on strengthening MP. Yana from Czech Republic, if you could take the floor to report us.
Thank you very much, Madam Co-Chair. On behalf of myself and of my co-facilitator, Chantal, I would like to report you back from the second meeting of the contact group, which discussed the elements of the CRP presented by the European Union. It's important to mention that all the text now we are working with, it's bracketed. Nevertheless, we had a very good discussion on the operative paragraph number 1 about the elements which are there, meaning the setup of licensing systems and about the matter about the licensing systems to be set up by the parties or maybe improved, and about the requirements about the compilation of existing best practices. We are discussing this item. We didn't touch the further text, and for continuation of our discussions, we would like to welcome to have more additional time dedicated to the contact group at this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will try to give more time for this group in the afternoon. The time and the venue will be projected later. And now we have a report back from the informal group on HFC 23. Mokhtar from Netherlands.
Thank you, Mrs. Co-Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Yesterday, this informal group met under the guidance from myself and the co-facilitator OBET from South Africa. It's a very technical matter we discussed. We've discussed and shared views on options the Secretariat presented regarding Form 4, but also other views were shared, whether or not solutions should be found in Forms 4 and 6. And also we exchanged views on the solutions might be in the footnotes, in the instructions, and the guidance documents. So it was a very technical matter. We didn't discuss the CRP. And there were only a few countries that were involved in the sharing of views, which in the room we had yesterday complicated the matter a bit. So if we are allowed a little bit more time today, we would prefer to have the discussion in a smaller room. And we also asked parties to have some discussions in the margins before any contact group today. And I already learned that a few of those discussions have taken place, not between all parties involved yet, but I really trust the parties find themselves before the next contact group, if allowed. So that would be our request. The discussions is technical, but we are making some progress to share some views on the issue. So if we could get another group that can meet today, it would be really helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will provide more time for this group as well in the afternoon today. And now I would like to give the floor to contact group on VSLS. Bruno from Brazil. If you...
Thank you so much, Ms. Co-Chair, and good morning, colleagues. Well, we had the meeting yesterday in the evening, and parties were aware that since this was the third meeting on VSLS, that this might be the last one. And for that, I would like to thank parties that had engaged very constructively in that contact group. We were able to go through paragraphs 1 and 2, and paragraph 1 was the most extensive one. So I believe that we've made a lot of progress. The text, of course, remains bracketed, but we were able to address some of the concerns from parties and also to try to streamline the text. And of course, more time would be appreciated, but we know that we have other items to go through today, and parties are looking forward to discussing this matter further at the MOP. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we will forward this to MOP, and with that, I would like to I would like to give the floor to Rolf. Yeah, before that, I would just like to mention that we will close the item on VSLS, and we will forward the CRP as it is now to the MOP, which will be held in Bangkok. Thank you.
Thank you, Miruha. Good morning, everybody. Then I would like to go to the contact group on compliance deferral. And I think that Micronesia, Anna Maria, will report back to us. Please, Micronesia.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you. And good morning, colleagues. The contact group on possible compliance deferral for Article 5 Group 2 parties met yesterday for an hour of constructive conversations regarding the proposed CRP. While there was no direct engagement on the text, there was important discussions regarding the special interests and circumstances of Group 2 countries, the application of certain aspects of the text to all parties, among other issues. Parties requested clarifications from the proponents as well as from the TEEP. And toward the end of the session, the proponents requested the opportunity to meet informally as a group with the TEEP to explore certain questions that they also had, for which a time and a room was readily made available by the Secretariat, and we thank them for their support on that yesterday in the afternoon. There remains an interest and willingness among the parties to continue discussing this issue, and we therefore ask the co-chairs if they could please provide an additional time slot for today for the contact group to reconvene. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you, and good to know on the progress made, and also on the meeting that took place between several A5 parties and TEEP. And indeed, there will be time made available for a next group, and also, let's say, some time also for the TEEP and several of the A5 parties to meet again. So that will be arranged as well. So then I would like to go to the contact group on unwanted equipment. Linda Koske from Kenya, please. Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Co-Chair, for giving me the floor on behalf of myself and Moran from France as the co-chairs of the contact group to report on the progress for the contact group on CRP2 on avoiding unwanted imports of energy inefficient products and equipment presented by Kyrgyzstan. The contact group met yesterday for 1 hour and made progress in discussing the CRP. The discussion started with the presentation of the CRP by the proponent, and further discussions were held and clarifications provided on issues and questions raised by the delegates present. Thereafter, the contact group started discussing the proposed decision and started with the discussions on the title of the decision, and further proposals were made on the same. Discussions also commenced on the operative paragraphs, and also further inputs were made on both paragraphs. Currently, there are brackets in the title and both operative paragraphs. The discussions were not finalized because the time allocated was over. In this regard, and noting the progress that the contact group has made, the co-chairs of the contact group request the co-chairs that more time be allocated to the contact group today to hold further discussions with the objective of lifting the brackets and to finalize on the draft decision. Lastly, I also wish to thank the delegates for their cooperation and flexibility in the discussions. I look forward to making further progress today on lifting the brackets to enable the contact group report clean text when the plenary session resumes. I also urge all the delegates to try as much as possible to narrow down on the divergences and as well take the opportunity where there are greater convergences to enable us deliver the mandate bestowed upon us. I thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you, and also good that, to hear that a lot of progress has been made, and indeed there will be some time be reserved for you to come back in the contact group. Then I would like to go to the informal group on feedstocks, and Michel Gauvin from Canada will report back. Michel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. The group on feedstock met this morning for the second session at 8:45. And on behalf of my co-facilitator, Leslie, and we would like to thank the delegates who participated in the informal group for their active and constructive participation. The informal group continued discussions from the previous day and was able to start looking at the decision text of the CRP. Very good progress was made on the proposed decision, and actually some paragraphs were agreed to. However, more time would be needed to finish the work. Mr. Co-Chair, if possible, we would like to ask for additional time for this contact group to meet. However, my understanding is that the schedule is pretty tight. And in that effect, if no more time is possible for this meeting, we would ask for the discussions to be able to continue in the preparatory segment of the MOP later this year. Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair.
Thank you for this report back and also on the progress you made. And indeed, I would like to thank you and Leslie Smith from Grenada for co-convening this group and, on the progress you made. And it's indeed like you already indicated, we have several groups that only met once, and we would like to give them at least the opportunity to meet twice. So my proposal is that this will be forwarded, this CRP will be forwarded to the MOP, and that we take up this issue at the MOP and close this item here at the OEWG. If that's acceptable to everybody, then we will proceed like that. Then we have had all the reports back from the different groups, and the schedule will be posted in a moment. But I also would like to request now that the Secretariat could give a very short presentation on, let's say, the app they have on avoided CO2. So keep it brief, keep it concise, because it's a new app and it's really quite helpful tool to see how much the Montreal Protocol contributes to, let's say, to fight emissions and also in the assistance on climate change. So, Gerald, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair, and good morning. Basically, at the Secretariat, we developed an application that highlights the contributions of the Montreal Protocol towards climate change. And so the application itself, we call it Avoided CO2 Emissions. And we just want to sort of present it to you. We've launched it before, but just to help you understand it better and hopefully encourage usage of the application. And so before we show you what you get from the application, we want to explain what is in it, and that will help you understand better when you do use it. As you know, as parties, you normally report data, and from that data we derive either production or consumption. And it is with those numbers that then we proceed to present what we present in the application. And so what you see first is, for example, a sample trend of production reported by a party. Additionally, as parties, you usually report data for the baseline years, your reference level from which you determine first your baseline level from that reference years, and secondly, you determine your control limits from the baseline. And so from that, we picked one extra parameter for every party. Depending on when the control measures kicked in for that party, we sort of recorded that first year when they started meeting their obligations. And so with those 4 lines, we present 6 parameters in the application. The first, as you might expect, of course, is trends, annual consumption or annual production. And so that's the first parameter or the first series you would get in the application. The second series allows a party to see what the control limits are. And I want to qualify this. This is primarily in CO2 equivalent tons, and we are using the GWP values, the latest ones provided by the Scientific Assessment Panel. So we derive the control limits from the reported information, and so that's the second series you have in the application. Then the third series you have is a measure of how much a party has reduced referenced to the baseline. And so for each year, you have a number that says for the year 2010 or something, you would have the number that says the difference between the baseline and that particular year's consumption or production is a certain number. Then the fourth parameter we have is referenced to the first year when the party assumed its obligations. So one is baseline, the other one is first year when the party started reductions. The fifth parameter we have is how far below the control limits a party consumed. In our minds, that sort of represents the extra, can we call it achievement or effort by the party, so that they didn't just meet what was required, they went further. And we know, of course, many parties did do that. And the final series in the application is a reference between the baseline and the control measures. It sort of represents what a party would be required to reduce from the baseline. And if I can just mention one or 2 points about that. For example, for HFCs, we don't have much of a trend in terms of production or consumption. And so expected trends in the control limits and expected trends, that is parameter 2 and parameter 6, those would be available for HFCs all the way to 2050 because they are derived from baselines that might have been reported. And so with that kind of background, which I hope you understood, but in case you don't, you can always come back to the Secretariat, we show you samples of some of the information you can get from the application. And so, for example, that chart is one of the things you could get. And it might not probably be visible to you on the screen, but that open menu that shows up on the pull-down menu that shows up on the left-hand side of the screen, it corresponds to the 6 parameters I just mentioned. And if I explain a little bit the options you can choose, for every series, you must choose either production or consumption. For any of the series, you have the option to have the information in CO2 equivalent tons. You can get the same information in metric tons, and you can get the same information in ODP tons. Additionally, you can choose individual countries. You can group countries by Article 5 or non-Article 5, or the members of the European Union, and so on. And then, of course, towards the bottom, you can choose the time range you want to look at, and extra options include choosing the type of graph you have. So, for example, this same graph, you could get it in as a pie chart or as a line graph. The other thing I want to mention is that this application is available both on the web and as a mobile app. And so what you see on the left, on the right, is the same chart but generated on the mobile app. If I move to the next screen, this is the same information we saw in the previous chart, but this is as a bar graph. In the previous chart, the information was aggregated across the year, and that's one of the other features you have. You can aggregate either by parties, you can aggregate for years or something. So this bar graph that you get is the same information in the previous chart, but spread out so that you can see the years. This is the bar chart you've just seen, but as a line graph. The difference is that with a bar graph, when they are stacked, it's difficult to see the trends on a per substance basis. So when you do it as a line chart, then you can easily discern trends for individual groups of substances and so on. Again, as mentioned, this app is available both on mobile app and web. So on the left, you see the same chart, but generated through the mobile app. This is an example of a different chart. The previous ones were production or consumption. But for example, this one shows the cumulative or the aggregated reductions, the way the sample graph would look, that as time moves, your expected reduction amounts would keep growing. as they go towards the baseline level, actually, because depending if it's phase out or phase down, then it would sort of go towards that limit. And the same graph on the mobile app. And this, for example, is what I was mentioning. You can get this kind of a chart that easily demonstrates even the control measures and the step down levels and so on for something like HFCs and so on. Of course, you can get the same for all other substances, and that's how they might look for a party, depending on the control limits for the different groups of substances. And on the right, sorry, is the same charts on the mobile app. And then I mean, the application allows the information to be viewed both as tables and as charts. I showed the charts because it's more easy to see different kinds of charts and so on. The tables will all look the same no matter what you choose, but this is a sample look of how the information appears when the information is requested in tabular form. And that's the same view, but from the mobile app. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gerald. And I think the app is also available in the App Store, and you can find it very easily. So CO2 e-app from UNEP, so that works. Thank you for this short presentation. Now, I would like to ask if the schedule for today can be projected on the screen with all the groups that we just announced. So please look at the screen. This is how it looks today. There is one group at the end, informal group on HFC 23 and the contact group on unwanted equipment. That's the only group that is in parallel, those two groups. The reason is that for HFC 23, it's in a smaller room, and also, let's say there were some parties active on that, so that's why we thought it could be run in parallel. So this is the schedule for today. And then I would like to say good luck everybody, and see each other later this afternoon. And the plenary will start, of course, after the last group, so around 5 o'clock. So see you later this afternoon. Canada has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair, and thank you for laying out the day for us. We're just wondering if there's no mistake, so the last contact group will meet for 15 minutes.
No, the last one, you see that you mean the one that's from 2:45 till 3 o'clock. It's not a contact.
Sorry, no,
that's not a contact group. That's
the
just
last one. Sorry, the last one that's on the list from 2:45 to 3 p.m. A5, G2, and TEEP.
That's under the other. Yeah, you see the last one on the list. That's on other meetings. And that's the meeting between TEEP and Group 2 or A5 countries. So that's so it's not a contact group. It's just we schedule it so everybody knows it. So if that clarifies it, I don't see any other reactions. Then I would like to say good luck today, and we see each other at plenary at 5.